Prescript is obviously an online, education platform for the most part, right? Other than the in-person stuff, especially like the level 3 that we're doing, like most education out there is online. But I think the beautiful thing about doing some of the in-person stuff is like actually being able to get hands-on. And it's like, hey, I've done enough of them now where it's like, you kind of follow some people, like, post seminar, everyone kind of follows each other. And it's like, we just went through 2 days of like how to train the upper body. And the very next day after we finish, if we fly home, whatever, I open up Instagram and it's like some people still do the same like weird shit that they always do, right? Some people aren't going to be open as much, or like, they're so stuck in their ways, or they're not willing to look at that outside perspective, or again, not to be disparaging, sometimes they don't want to confront that they could have been wrong potentially, or there could have been a better way. And that's okay too. I obviously understand there's that human component to it side too, right? Like everyone has their own biases and opinions. But I think the best part about, the in-person stuff is like being able to get hands-on, being able to like, and in the labs as well. It's a kind of a similar concept to the labs, right? Where like we can, people can bring their own client problems to a lab or to the in-person things. It's like, this is something that I'm going through. This is something that my client's going through. How could this potentially help yourself or your client, right? And I think when you talk previously about the application side of things, I think that's where the in-person stuff really comes into play. It's like, get in there, like try to do the exercises yourself, see where this stuff might actually apply in your training, in your client's training. And it's like, these are the things and these are the reasons why we prescribe the exercises that we prescribe, because, whether it's a high cable bicep curl, you get a little bit more exposure to some external rotation. You get exposure to, you get, what's it called? Like biased into some upward rotation, right, of the shoulder blade, right? Teaching people how to use their scap and use their serratus in a movement that does not look at all like a corrective exercise whatsoever. But it's like, looking at these exercises not just as like this is just a bicep exercise. This goes back to the indexing stuff that we were talking about before. It's like, this is the way that we can move the needle, that it may not look like a corrective exercise, or it may not be, a specific bicep exercise, but these are the extra benefits that come with it, right? The ancillary or tertiary, primary, tertiary, secondary benefits, whatever. It's like being able to get hands-on and have that perspective change in session and watching that like click is amazing to see.
Yeah, I would agree that it just adds a new element to education and application that can develop in real time, that people can get practice in, that there's that ability to like ask questions, to physically maneuver people that, we have a lot of trainers coming into the space that have never worked in person. And it's a whole completely different experience, not only being able to like having to communicate with the person of like, hey, don't get on your phone, like, hey, we have to make small talk, let's find out about your interests. Like all those things, is a trainer, you have to navigate through that in person. But in the education session, it offers that benefit to be able to physically move somebody, to be able to like provide context, have them in real time try this. Now I want you to do it this way. You feel the difference. You feel what we're going for here, because you and I both know we can relay, like we can say these words of do in the cable high bicep, okay, let's make sure that we are externally rotated. We're in scaption, that we have supination of the wrist. But like getting the person to feel it of, those minor things that change the quality of the outcome that we're trying to get of, okay, pinky's up here on the cable high. See, whenever it turns, like that small degree of rotation, we've lost the quality. Like this might be a cutoff point in if we're trying to identify the ranges that we're working into, or like what qualities we're trying to make sure maintain through this exercise, that we're not just trying to hit a certain rep count, but we're trying to maintain the longevity or the quality of the exercise that we introduced it for, that there's those little subtle things that happen in person, in, you know, facilitating in-person opportunities that you don't get in some other mediums. And another point you brought up is that, like, I as a coach appreciate is those light bulb moments. Whenever, you know, you maybe you've said the same thing 10 different ways, but whenever it finally clicks, could be like, hey, I've been saying this. We've had 2 straight days, 8 hours. I've said this 5 different ways, but like, hey, this is the thing that clicked. And like, you just see that, oh, like everything comes together in all an instant. You're like, yes, this is what I've been working for this whole time right here.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's like, you know, regardless of whether, you know, it's in person or whether it's an online course you're taking, again, whether you take a prescript course or not, I think the difference maker in any sort of education you do is going to be the application thing, right? It's so easy to just sit behind a computer and like learn, like, okay, this is a thing that might help this particular case, but it's like, it's kind of on you, the coach, to be able to go out and like do these things yourself and give them a shot and like, you know, see what works, see what doesn't. Because again, like as the topic of this kind of podcast has gone, it's like, everyone experiences things very differently. So it's like, you know, what you go through and the trials and tribulations that you deal with are probably going to be something that your own clients come up with as well, or have issues with as well. So it's like, I think any sort of education is always going to come down to your willingness to be able to, you know, actually put the principles into application and give things a shot for yourself. See what works, see what doesn't, see how you can make things better. Because it's like, the more you do things yourself, obviously the more and a deeper understanding you're going to have of that particular, you know, exercise or topic or principle. So it's like, it's always going to come down to you being able to not only challenge your own beliefs, but actually put into practice some of the things that maybe you aren't super comfortable with, or maybe things that, you know, you're trying to learn, you know, why an exercise might be more beneficial than another one, or where, like we said, the tools, like where this tool might actually be, you know, best suited to be used to get a client into a position that we want them to get into.